I'd like to call this public forum meeting to order at 5:35 p.m. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Public forum applicant presentation, bylaw enforcement measures respecting the city's parking and traffic bylaw. I'll call on Brandon McKinney Somerville, resident, for his presentation respecting bylaw enforcement measures respecting city's parking and traffic bylaw. Please note you'll have up to 10 minutes to discuss your matter before the public forum committee. You may proceed, and Brandon, please state your name and address.
Yeah, so hi everybody. My name is Brandon McKinney Somerville. I live at 22 Natalie Court in the city of Thorold. I recently moved here a few months ago. Actually, I've got like a whole script here. I'll kind of just go through that. I figured that'll be easier on everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm a new resident as of August. I moved here because I used to be a resident of Welland, but unfortunately I had some neighbors that moved in that made my life where I was living unlivable. So I had to unfortunately throw everything in a car and literally come and sleep on the floor at my new place because the situation in Welland had just deteriorated so much. So I'm gonna skip all that because it's just needless background information. But so my summer job had ended for the season when I moved. I was looking to do a few trades programs, speaking with a few friends I know that are managers at restaurants locally. So I know a restaurant manager in Niagara-on-Lake and a restaurant manager in Grimsby. And I was just looking for something to do over the winter course because I'm a pool guy. So in the summertime, my job very busy. Basically, my EI got delayed. So normally, when your seasonal job comes to an end, you usually get EI until your seasonal job starts back up. I guess a former employer in Welland was just refusing to provide Service Canada with the proper documentation. So my EI, basically from the time I was living here until mid-October, was delayed. I had no money. So I called and called and called. I tried to get in contact with this business. No avail. Nothing happened. ROE, my utter refusal to submit an ROE. So Service Canada, I had to give them a month to do an investigation. So with all that being said, I was searching for a job, settling into Thorold. Things with my EI were starting to get resolved. And I was looking at actually a few places I know of, like Union Halls and Niagara Falls, about starting an HVAC or electrician trade. I actually moved here because I wanted to start a career locally. That was the whole point of me moving here, which brings me to why I'm here today. So on September 18th at 4:54 p.m., my roommate messaged me saying that Thorold bylaw enforcement was outside looking at my car that was parked at the end of our driveway. So I don't know if council, I've got a slideshow. I don't know if council wants to bring that up and go to slide 2. There's a picture of my car. So my roommate messaged me saying they were outside looking at my car parked in front of our house at the end of our driveway. And I promptly, I messaged him back because I wasn't even in town. I was actually on Ontario Street in St. Catharines because I'm a local artist. So I was meeting with people. Basically, I was waiting for my roommate to show up because we were going to do some stuff. And, my roommate who was at home messaged me saying, hey, Bylaw's looking at your car. So, I told them, give them my number. If Bylaw's got concerns, they can just call me, and if it's a concern about it could just be something super arbitrary, just come and talk to me. So 10 minutes later, actually, at 5:04, my roommate messaged me to say that they were towing my car. My roommate showed up, luckily, so I had to beg his friend to drive us back to my house because I was like, well, maybe if I get there and talk to the bylaw officer, maybe they'll be a little bit I don't know what the issue is. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know why my car's getting towed. I don't know. Because I've been living there for 2 months. My car had been in that spot. I had moved. I don't know. We'll get to that later, but the neighbors said that my car hadn't moved. That was patently false. So basically, yeah. I showed back up. I had to beg him for a ride so we could try and beat the tow truck. I had no idea what was going on, what issues there were. There was no fire hydrant. There was no parking sign. There was nothing. Unfortunately, I was 2 minutes too late to get to my car. We actually saw the tow truck from the highway. I could see my house from the highway, so we saw the tow truck. So, I was already upset by the time I showed up because I had nothing I could do. I promptly began yelling at the officer. My car was already up in the flatbed. We exchanged some words. He explained his side of the story, saying that apparently the neighbors had claimed my car was abandoned and hadn't moved in a month according to their Ring doorbell, which I told them wasn't true because had they checked their Ring doorbell, actually, they would have seen my car had moved. They said it blocked their driveway, which we'll get to that because I've got more pictures of if I was considered blocking their driveway. Oh boy. So I had I'd explained to this officer that we had no idea whether there was an issue because bylaw or our neighbors had never come and spoken to me. I didn't even know there was an issue at the time. So I immediately explained the situation with my EI because the fun part about towing in the region is the moment they tow your car, it's $350. You don't get to negotiate that. You don't get to fight that. They take your car and they say $350 or you don't get it back. Plus it's $75 a day for storage. So while you're fighting this and trying to find opportunities to go, hey, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't understand what's going on. They're adding more fees on top of it. So the tow truck driver, luckily he had a little bit of a soul and he said he could knock $100 off of the tow fee. But like I told him, I said, I don't have EI because, I told him the whole story with the business owner just refusing to submit my ROE. I told him everything. And the bylaw officer and the tow truck driver said, well, had we known that, we wouldn't have towed your car. So, that's just whatever. So the other fun thing that they told me about was the fact that even though they're not open on weekends, so you get it's a $75 storage fee every day they have to keep it there, including weekends, when the tow company isn't even open for you to go and sign your car over. So you're literally paying storage fees during a time period when you can't even retrieve your car. So I had to my EI wasn't due until October because Service Canada was still doing their, their investigation. So I had to let them tow and fight it. So immediately after the incident, I told everybody. I told my family, I told local businesses, I told I go to the convenience store. I told everybody at the convenience store. And then, my roommate who's a TA at Brock, I actually had him read through the bylaw and he just couldn't find out exactly what the problem was. They just kept citing safety concerns. That was what Danny Vukovic told me. If you ask my parents, they said, oh, we can drive you, but only if you're going to sign your car away, which is not what I wanted to do because, transportation is a big deal in this region. So I emailed Danny Vukovic, which, he emailed me back. Well, actually, we followed up with the neighbors, which is on slide 3. So we actually talked to the neighbors and because the next day we went over and said, hey, we didn't even know there was an issue. And the neighbors actually made it seem like bylaw kind of was like, oh, are you sure? You don't want us to tow the car? Are you really sure you don't want us to tow the car? Because we could tow the car, which, on slide 3, there's actually pictures of the text messages between me and the neighbor. And you can see we didn't know who the car belonged to. Trust me when I say we wouldn't have done that if we knew who to speak to. So, had our neighbors, I don't know if we're just scary people and our neighbors didn't want to talk to us. We don't know. But so as you can see here, he said, we're very sorry about that. We originally called because the back of the car was a little bit in the driveway. So keep in mind, a little bit in the driveway. And it made parking on the street a bit more difficult since parking is limited. If anybody here has been to Natalie Court, it is an utter mess for parking here. We need a sidewalk desperately. And the road is just a free for all. I've seen parking, as we're going to get into, I've seen parking that's wouldn't even fly in Welland. Welland bylaw is soft compared to Thorold bylaw. So that being said, I emailed Danny Vukovic. I was a little bit harsh in my email. And I got the response on slide 4.
I just to give you a heads up, you have 2 minutes left.
Okay. On slide 4, I got a follow up from Danny. He said they followed up with the homeowners and said that they wanted to tow it. Basically, the rest of the slides, since I'm running out of time here, are cars that are parked in the exact same way that my car was parked. Some of them actually blocking the driveway even more than my car was. None of these cars got towed. None of these cars got fined. On another slide here, I've got a car that actually had a flat tire, and we did the courtesy of going and talking to our other neighbors before we called bylaw. And that car, It's still sitting in the driveway, two driveways over. They never got towed. They only got a fine. So, you know, like I lost my car, but our neighbors didn't. And the rest of the slides are just cars parked in the exact same spot my car was, but they didn't get towed. You know, like as a result of this, like this is the thing, this is what I want to say. As a result of this, I lost my car. I lost my summer job because I have no reliable way to get to my job now. All because bylaw seemed to like, I don't know, was it like Jason Simpson, the guy who's above Danny Vukovic, said, oh, well, it was safety concerns. So if you want to keep going through the slideshow, wouldn't all these cars, well, not that car, that's the same car that was, you know, they only got a fine and they were allowed to put it back in the driveway. But like car parked right there, same spot, wasn't towed. Car parked, like the rest of the slides, it's the same thing. Car parked there, same spot, wasn't towed. So I don't know. You know, every person I've spoken to has told me that like I shouldn't assign my car away because, you know, like there's nothing council or anybody can do. And I don't know, like I don't know if this is something I can ask for like some kind of compensation for. I don't know if this is something because as of, you know, like right now, I did the calculations. It would be close to $4,000 to get my car back right now if I hadn't signed it away. And that's something I can't fight with the region because the region's just going to go, well, your car got towed. It's $75 a day for storage. And if you don't pay that, they can actually start to come after you, which is a possibility I didn't want to come to. So I don't know if there's something council can do. I don't know if like I emailed everybody here. Only Carmen DeRose got back in contact with me to express some sympathies. So that's my speech, I guess. I've got a little bit more to say, but without, you know, running into my time, I just kind of curious to get council's thoughts because this is something that I've had to kind of rack my brain with for 2 months because I literally don't know what else I can do right now. So sorry if that was a bit rambly, council, but I give it back to you.
Thank you, Brandon, for your presentation, and we'll move on to the staff response, and then we'll open the floors for questions. So I'll call on Jason Simpson, Director of Development Services, to provide any information on behalf of staff. Jason, you have up to 10 minutes as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I don't have much to add other than we received a complaint that a vehicle was blocking a driveway. We attended the property or the location of the vehicle, found it was blocking a driveway. We attempted to speak to people in the area to identify who the owner of the property or the vehicle was, but that was unsuccessful. And as a result, and as standard practice, because it was blocking the driveway, we had the vehicle towed. Once a vehicle is on the truck, the city no longer has jurisdiction, and it becomes the responsibility of the tow company, who is are the ones that set the fees and operate under their own legislation. Other than that, I don't really have anything to add. It's just, it was standard practice that was followed to mitigate an unsafe situation. Anytime a vehicle is blocking a driveway, we don't want to be in a position where, and the whole reason that this is in the bylaw is to prevent people from being trapped in their driveways or preventing potential damage to other vehicles when backing out of driveways and potentially hitting vehicles on the street. So we don't want anybody to be stuck in their driveway in an emergency, and so we get those vehicles towed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. So now I'm going to open the floor for council members to ask any questions to either the presenter or the staff response. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Brandon, for showing up. I'm Councillor DeRose. Brandon, you live in the house on the left? Obviously, you live in one of those two houses, correct?
Yeah, the house on the left is my house, correct? Okay. That's correct.
How much do you think you were blocking the driveway on the right?
Just give me I would say a quarter. And the reason actually I'm a little bit giddy today is I actually got a picture last night of a car actually fully blocking their driveway. And by law, it wasn't by to tow their car. So
okay.
I would say like my car was parked like maybe blocking a quarter of our driveway. And that was by design, actually. When I first moved, the whole idea was like, well, we don't want to bug our neighbors because like nobody wants nosy neighbors. So that was kind of like our thing, was like we parked kind of equidistant, because you'll notice actually there's a picture in the slideshow near the end. The curb section in front of our house is actually very tiny. It's very hard to park there. And our driveway, like we could have squeezed a third car in had bylaw let us, but obviously I wasn't given that opportunity.
Thank you, Brandon. Brandon, did you have any warning that they might do this?
Nope. The only warning I got was when my roommate messaged me 10 minutes before they towed my car.
Had they ever been to your house to follow through with complaints from neighbors?
Nope. We've never, like the most we've had is, sometimes our bins, I live with roommates, college university students. So sometimes our bins get left out past, the 7 p.m. or whatever. That's like the most we've had bylaw come to our house for.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon.
Is there anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just following up on towing the vehicle, how many, if I can ask through you, Mr. Mayor, to our Jason Simpson, how many cars have been towed on Natalie? Is this a common practice that in, say, the past 3 months, how many cars have been towed for blocking driveways? Because the pictures clearly indicate this happens quite regularly. And some of these intersections, or not intersections, but streets like Natalie, Naples, Baxter, there's a whole pile of streets like this that have very, very narrow spots in front and vehicles parked there all the time. Like, is this a common practice? And how many, well, specifically on this street, how many cars have been towed in the last 3 months?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, unfortunately, I don't have that data available to me. I could probably try to get that information. Common practice would be to tow if we are able to attend and address it, but I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head how many have been towed within the recent past.
Yeah, because I think, Mr. Mayor, one of the common themes is there's a lot of cars parked this way. I think education's a better way than just getting out there and towing vehicles. Again, finding an order of vehicles sometimes is a little difficult because it could be anywhere on that street when people park there. So I think we need to do a better job of, especially on these narrow type streets, either putting up no parking signs or informing the residents that if they do block a driveway, they will be towed. So at least it gives them some information. The other question I had is, I think the reason of this one being towed was because it was blocking the driveway, but I think the original complaint was that the vehicle was there for an extended period of time. My question through you, Mr. Mayor, to our staff is, do we chalk the tires so we know that they've been there for an extended period of time? Was that something done to this vehicle? Was it there for an extended period of time? And again, I'm not sure if this one is, or if it's another car that had the flat tire. Looks like it was a different vehicle that had the flat tire. But is that a common practice of chalking the tires?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it is. If it's a timing enforcement matter, then yes, we do chalk the tires. We don't physically put chalk. That's an old practice. We don't physically put chalk on the tires. It's all done electronically now in the industry, but yes, we do it.
Well, can you, through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe if you could explain that to me. When you say electronically, so if a car drives off and then comes back and parks pretty close to where it was, will you know that it's been moved in the 12 hours or 24 hours? Or does the computer or the artificial intelligence just say, well, it's close to its spot, it's been there for an extended period of time? Because I know that that's a complaint that's popped up elsewhere, so maybe a little bit clarity on how the chalking process works in the modern time.
So what happens for the electronic chalking, the location of the valve stems on all wheels are identified electronically. So in order for us to, if a vehicle left and then returned, the valve stems on all vehicles would have to be in the exact same location for us to think that it hadn't moved. If they're not, which is very unlikely that they would all be in the exact same location. But if they're not, if they're in a different location, then that identifies to us that the vehicle had moved.
Thanks for that clarity.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Dedivides.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for Brandon for coming in. And my question, have you ever been warned not to park there before? Did you ever probably parked in this spot before?
Nope, never been warned. Our neighbor never spoke to us and said that it was an issue. And the reason I parked there was because we had like roommates who had previously parked there in the years that have, like, the people have lived here before me, obviously, and people parked there, and there's never been an issue.
I have a lot of experience in that spot. I owned 5 Natalie Court for years and years. And parking's always been a mess, and students are parking everywhere. Probably could tow like 50 cars in that spot on any given night.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I took pictures and, you know, emphasized that is because it's kind of just like, you know, I don't know if it's a double standard. I don't know if it's because, like, I was just the right guy at the right time and, you know, all the factors lined up for a tow. But it was just a little frustrating because, like, as a result of this tow, like, my life has just been completely thrown out of whack. Like, I don't have a vehicle anymore. So, like, I'm basically stuck in Thorold, and like any job opportunities that I would have had prior to this tow, like, are just out the window.
I had experience with tow companies too, and their policies, and then what they charge is just insane, and that's a totally different topic. But I agree with the Councilor D'Angelo. There should be more signage, education. They've been parking there for years, so we have to deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Hanley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through you to staff, the way we are in the city, so hypothetically speaking, what happens in the city is there's a car parked in driveway A that's blocking the driveway, and there's a car parked in driveway B that's blocking the driveway. Driveway A gets a complaint, the city comes and tows that car, and they drive by the other car that's illegally parked. And we know that's occurred. I know that's occurred. And it's based on a complaint basis. That's the fraudulent thing about this all, to me as a councillor, that individuals could be parked, as this individual here tonight has mentioned, in the same circumstances, but because it hasn't been complained about, our bylaw enforcement officer will literally drive by, and it's occurred. But yet they will go to the neighbor. It's the same with bylaw enforcement complaints. It's based on a complaint basis. It's not a proactive, it's a reactive. And that's where I think we're erred in the city, is that we need to be proactive, because the day they jolted that gentleman's car, they probably could have towed several cars, not only because of parking the driveway, but I do believe if you read the actual permitted area for which you can park, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Simpson, is it not 1.5 meters from the edge of the driveway? And we don't enforce that. Would that be correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do not have a distance in the bylaw that you have to be away from the driveway. You just can't be blocking the driveway. I know some municipalities do have a distance from driveways, but the Thorold bylaw does not have that. As far as the proactive and reactive, our policy, our approach is we do proactive enforcement of bylaw and parking. In fact, the majority of our parking enforcement is proactive. However, the complaints do take precedent over proactive incidents.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, not that you're not proactive. Obviously, we know you are, because you do tickets, but my concern is that when they get these calls, they're actually going by areas for which an individual is also infringing upon the law. And I was only referring to the Highway Traffic Act because I believe if the police are called, they would know our bylaw, so they would refer to the Highway Traffic Act for the distance parked from the edge of a driveway.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple questions for our presenter, Brandon. So your vehicle right now, it's impounded, and you've written it out, or you've given it to the region, so you don't have ownership of it at this point in time. So my question to you is, you're here explaining what's happened. What are you looking for council to do to help you through this situation?
See, that's like where every single person I spoke to here, where things kind of got a little wonky. So I actually had to sign my car away. I didn't get to that part of my presentation, but I had to sign my car away because like the $75 a day storage fee, like I said, by the time now I would have had to go and sign my car away, it'd be close to $4,000. That's more than my entire EI up until right now. It would have cost me more to get my car back than I've earned up to this point. I'm not sure what the city can do for me. I'm not sure if the city can compensate me in any form. I'm not sure if the city can go to the tow company and go, give this kid his car back. I don't know what my options are. That seemed to be the thing. Like I tried talking to the clerk about it. I tried talking to family and friends about it. Nobody really seemed to have an answer for me. But at this point, I'm just kind of here to spread my story and just like, let people know that like I'm stuck in Thorold now. And like I'm going to be around here for a while if I don't get my car back. And like, it's a big bother. I tell everybody about this story because I go, careful, Danny Vukovic's going to come and tow your car if you're an inch over the line. And it has kind of started a little bit of a bylaw war in our street because now, if you can call the bylaw over arbitrary stuff, why not? So that's kind of my thing is I don't know why I'm here tonight, really. I just kind of wanted to tell my story and see what council thought. Because I did email everybody and Carmen DeRose luckily emailed me back. I thought this was going to go into the void and nowhere, but I do appreciate everybody kind of at least sitting here and listening to my story.
Yeah, well, you're at the right forum for us to discuss this. So just to go back to the car, so did you get a chance? I know you've asked the clerk and you've been asking, have you asked the towing company or where it's stored if they still do they still have the vehicle?
I haven't, sorry. I haven't talked to them since I signed my car away. But my assumption would be that they probably ended up scrapping my car. It could still be sitting on the lot because unfortunately bylaw or the towing company didn't tow my car to the St. Catharines lot. They actually towed it to Niagara Falls. So that was another thing was I couldn't even get there myself. I actually had to get my roommates to drive me to Niagara Falls to sign my car away. And the tow company actually sent me on a day they weren't open, so I had to go 2 days.
Okay. So at this point in time, you're not sure where the car is located or if they still have owner since releasing the ownership. Okay, thank you.
Councillor DeRose, go ahead.
Yeah, just to staff, Jason, is it common to tow somebody's car without talking to them or speaking to them?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the officers don't have a mechanism to identify who owns the vehicle. And so we will do our best to try to speak to people that are in the area to maybe identify it, but otherwise, yes, it is common practice because we don't have a mechanism to actually figure out who owns the vehicle.
Yeah, I received a call recently, something similar, and it was a former student of mine who actually is a lawyer now. And he had a flat tire on DQ Road, and same thing. He got back in time. He walked back with a can of gas, and they would not take it off the truck unless he paid them. So it's almost like extortion. So I'm not pleased about that, but that's a separate story. Sorry.
Okay, anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Jason. Jason, just so I can understand the process, if a resident calls to complain about a parking infringement, is that a one-shot deal? Bylaw will go out, and if bylaw recognizes that that car is in the wrong position, then action can be taken right away? Do we have some sort of policy or procedure in place where we can let the resident who complained know? We've attached a note on the car, a sticker, and said 24 hours you must move this vehicle, and that's providing that it still allows some access into the parking spot that they're calling to complain about being blocked. So I'm just wondering, do we have anything like that in our policy or in our actions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do not have a policy on issuing warnings, although we have issued warnings. It depends on the situation. If it's blocking a driveway or parked on the roadway in an unsafe manner, then no, we don't issue warnings. We just tow. If it's a different form of illegal parking, then we don't issue warnings. We will just issue a parking ticket, and we'll typically, in most cases, issue 2 tickets before we tow if it's not an unsafe situation. The only time we really issue warnings, and we've gotten a lot of complaints when we have issued warnings as well, but the only time we usually issue warnings is if there's a new provision in the bylaw that comes into effect that people wouldn't know about, then we'll start issuing warnings for the first little bit of time to give people knowledge of the bylaw, but then we'll start issuing tickets after that.
So in this case, had the resident complained prior to this time that Brandon's vehicle was towed? Was this an ongoing complaint about their driveway being blocked, or did this happen once and then action was taken on the same day?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have that information readily available. I'm trying to find it quickly here. Perhaps if the presenter can remind me of the address.
22 Natalie Court.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, through Mr. Mayor, it looks like we have received 5 complaints. Mind you, when you're parked on the street, it's within an area, so I can't guarantee it's the exact same situation.
Okay.
Because it's not an actual property. But we've received several complaints with regards to Natalie Court. Only 2, it appears, this year, though.
So my thought on this is, wouldn't it be a possibility that bylaw could inform the resident that a warning sticker has been placed on the windshield? They'll be given 24 hours to move the vehicle. And I'm referring to a situation such as Brandon's here, where the car didn't, encroached onto the parking spot of the neighbor, but didn't completely block it. So I'm sure it could still have been accessed, judging from the photos that I've seen. So I'm wondering if this might be something to take back and think about. I would assume that the resident would say, okay, that's fine, at least we're going to deal with it. And I completely understand when a driveway is being completely blocked. But in this case, I'm a little bit wary to believe that the neighbor couldn't get in or out, and we might have avoided this whole issue had we had a process similar to that in place. So just a suggestion for future thought. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor DeRose, this is your 3rd time up.
Yep,
so it's
last
your
question.
time.
Last question, Mr. Mayor, for Jason. Jason, how hard would it be to get this kid's car back?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that would require discussions with the tow company. The city doesn't have jurisdiction to require the tow company to return it. It's in the tow company's possession now, so that's really a negotiation with the tow company.
I would think that we give them enough business, tow company gets enough business from their contract with us, that they should be willing to negotiate something, because in my opinion, this guy should get his car back. Not to blame, I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just saying what transpired, I don't agree with it. I wouldn't want to be treated like that. These are city residents. I don't want to call it disrespectful, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of respect going on for the person's situation initially. And other councilors brought forward some good questions. I think somehow this kid should get his car back. That's all I can say. Thank you. If anything I can do, Mr. Mayor, please let me know, and I will push to try to get it. These tow companies are unscrupulous, and that's how they operate. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Well, it's more of a recommendation. I think, given all the information here, given the facts, given what's transpired here and has put Brandon in a predicament, from a city perspective, can we direct staff to contact the towing company to see if they have the vehicle, and seeing what arrangements could be made to help Brandon retrieve his vehicle on his behalf. I know it's outside our jurisdiction, but he's looking for a bit of help here, seeing if he could get his car back. It is a bit of a long
I'll
shot
just
here.
ask, can you, go ahead, Jason.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we can certainly reach out to the tow company. Perhaps if Brandon can maybe email me or contact me tomorrow or when it's convenient for him to provide me with the details of the vehicle, because I won't have that, so I know which vehicle I'm speaking to the tow company about. However, for council's information, it's probably very unlikely that the tow company will just give the vehicle back. They're probably going to be looking for some sort of compensation.
Well, that's why I'm asking staff to contact the towing company, get some information. If there's a cost associated with it, bring it back to council as an information report so that we can see what we can do here to help the gentleman out. I'm not making any promises right now, but I think if we can help him out in that direction. And then the secondary component is that we really have to get on top of this in terms of looking at how we're going to warn people about the parking situation so that we're not just discriminately or just towing vehicles, because like I said, all it takes is one neighbor to get upset and then they call and then all of a sudden a bunch of cars are going to be towed. You know, we have to work through these problems. Parking's an issue in our community. You know, the province doesn't really care about it because they just keep jamming stuff down our throats and multiplying residential units in areas. So we're going to have this problem throughout our city. So I think we have to have a better strategy working with our citizens to make sure that issues like this just don't happen, but we could try to work through them. I know it's a safety issue. There's no doubt about that. But when there's more and more vehicles on the road, they're not going to be parked anywhere. Had he parked on his front lawn, he would have been okay, but he actually parked on the road. So, yeah, just a little different. So if we can maybe get staff to...
You can't park on the front lawn, just so you know.
Mr. Mayor, I've seen cars parked on front
Well,
lawns,
it's
and I've
not-
never seen one towed.
It's an
so-
offense, just so you know.
Well, I'm
There's
just
no
saying
park-
because-
No, it's an offense, so you can't park on the front lawn.
Yeah,
So let's
okay.
get that straight.
Yes, I know,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do to protect yourself here, and unfortunately, we're not helping, so,
Anyway.
thanks.
Just-
Councillor Sentence, did you have a question?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just through you, Brandon, thank you for coming and giving us your story. It's a catch-22 because, as Councillor Hanley said, to be proactive, well, if you're going to be proactive, then you're going to take things without, warning because they're unsafe. And then on the other hand, if you don't have warnings, then it might not be fair as well. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, we do some education like during Brock Week on bylaws and stuff like that. And maybe it's a matter of sending out more flyers this turn around to let everybody know what our policies and our bylaws are. If we could, Jason, maybe that would help the situation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hannan.
Just one other thing, and I would suggest that you go to ontario.ca. I was going to mention this earlier, but I know that January 1st, 2024, legislation coming in regards to the amount towing companies can charge you, how fast they have to notify you, where they can stow your vehicle, access to your vehicle. It even has in there, you said you weren't able to access your vehicle on closed days. There's a clause in there about from closed days, what your rights are in regards to accessing your vehicle. So you just need to go to ontario.ca, and there's regulations there that tow truck drivers and companies have to abide by. But there is a rate structure, and that rate structure by that towing company has to be not telling you that $75 an hour. It has to be registered and notifiable beforehand. So they can't just come after the fact and say it's $75 a day. They need to legally advertise that and have that part of their cost structure when they're towing a vehicle. Amount of the tow, how much for storage fees, etc. It's in the legislation.
Thank you. Okay, Jason, you're going to follow up on that and report back to council. Is there anything else? Okay, I want to thank, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I could take this opportunity just to remind Brandon, because I don't have Brandon's contact information, if Brandon could contact me tomorrow when it's convenient, just to provide the vehicle information.
Okay, Brandon?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Jason. I can do that. No problem.
you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Brandon, for presenting today.
Thank you,
And-
council.
And there being no further business, this meeting is hereby adjourned at 6:15 PM.